5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
Hey now. All right. Welcome, everybody. Friday, TGIF, we made it. Get you to the weekend edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. Great P-Man with you. Philip the Rep Pilkington is alongside. It is nice to have you with us aboard for today. Got ECU baseball coming up at the top of the hour. I'll be on the television call along with the esteemed Mike Mullis. 6 o'clock, ESPN Plus. 5:45, the airtime for radio here on 94.3 The Game with Dylan Johnson and Coach Gary Overton. So they will be bringing you the Bud Light pregame in just about, a little less than 45 minutes from now. Pilk, welcome into you. I understand you and the coach were texting last night. I think you might have the more impressive text list than I do.
I mean, you text the coach, too. If the coach is what sent you over the thing, then, we do both text.
But, I mean, you're texting with Logan about tennis. You texted the coach about basketball, and it's a very impressive text list that you have there. You have. Big news, Pilk, that you and I both learned about a couple days ago.
Everyone, a little breaking news for you.
I go reporting it. And significant NIL news. So an email was sent to Team Boneyard members last night saying that Garrett Blackwelder and his wife are going to be matching NIL fundraising for Pirate basketball for the next month. So this will last until the 22nd, I believe it is, or somewhere in there, 22nd, 23rd of April. And Garrett Blackwelder, as we know, founded Grover Gaming. They recently sold their charitable assets division for over $1 billion. According to this release, it says the deadline for the match is Friday the 28th, so a week it will go on. Henry said this morning it was into next month. But anyway, point is, this is pretty significant because they're going to try to match some of the monies that they would be giving to go towards ECU basketball, which is a positive thing because, whether it's football and whether it's basketball, and frankly, those are the two sports that are going to move the needle, especially in the future of where we're headed with all of this. And it's the sports that ECU is going to have to hang their hats on. So I view this as a real positive with basketball. I know there was also a push before members of the board from John Gilbert, from what I understand, that, we need to start approaching basketball and our mentality about basketball a little bit differently. So here to that. And look, if this can get you with revenue share to a pretty competitive number, I think you have an opportunity to see better players brought in. And I don't care who you are, what league you're in, as you probably have seen, Pilk, with the tournament the last 2 days and really dating back to the first four on Tuesday. Yeah, coaching matters, and if you're hot and the roster meshing and molding and coming together matters, but talent matters more than anything. And now we are in the talent acquisition game of college basketball more so than at any point ever before.
We are. And, this whole acquisition things, I just want to remind everybody, this starts Monday. The portal opens on Monday.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like, hey, when the spring semester ends, we need to start talking basketball. No. Start talking basketball right now. So, like you said, with this, if we can get in 2-3 big players. I mean, I'm even fine with Jordan Riley, getting a pay raise. I don't know exactly what he was getting and becoming your number 3. But like you said, you're going to have to bring in a star that can create, and then you're going to have to bring in a shooter. You got to be able to shoot to be effective. You got to be able to shoot in March. We're seeing that now. If you look at all the upsets, not that really many happened yesterday, but just out throughout history, when you look at a lot of upsets, it's because the team that was lesser shot the ball better. And that's what we need to go get.
Well, and this is changing a little bit, and this is why I think maybe the tournament has not been quite the upset thing that a lot of people become accustomed to in March, because a lot of those mid-major teams historically were not in the one-and-done market. They had guys that were there for multiple years. So it's get old, stay old. The teams that have won, and I will see what kind of plays out in this new era. And Duke is trying to a degree, usurp this line of thinking. But the teams that generally win in March are teams that are older teams, are teams that are experienced teams. Mike Brace said, get old, stay old.
Look
and
at
you can do
UConn
that now.
last year and the year before.
Yeah. I mean, well, and look at Auburn. Auburn's roster, average age of its roster, is older than the Thunder's roster in the NBA on average. And so it's get old, stay old. Duke, as great as Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple and everybody else that's a freshman on that roster are, and Proctor, but Proctor's got a little seasoning about him. John Shire went out and acquired other parts from places that guys who had been productive and had won, been on teams that had had success.
Yep, Mason Gillis, Sion James, those were big.
Yeah.
He said those are the guys that are difference this year. I mean, anybody can have a talented couple of freshmen. Well, not anybody, but any blue blood can go out there and buy you a couple talented freshmen. But those glue guys, those experience, Mason Gillis, who's been to the Final Four, that's the difference.
What did he say yesterday? We haven't done blank till we win the whole thing. Is that what he basically said?
Shire said that?
No, Gillis.
Oh, really?
I think it was Gillis that said that.
It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, he's got the most team first, we all about winning attitude of anybody. So it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think if he didn't play a minute the rest of the year and they won it all, he wouldn't care. And if he played every minute and they got their rear ends handed to him, he'd be upset. I mean, he is a team guy, so I could see it that way.
So this is a big deal. Woody Tyner is the guy to contact for Team Boneyard. We'll give it's Woody at Tyner.net, Tyner.net, Woody at Tyner.net. Reach out to him there. And to Team Boneyard, you'll be awarded Pirate Club priority points. Pirate Club members will receive the standard 2 points for every $100 contributed. I think that's a big thing, too. But look, this is positive and good for basketball. And I mean, we've beaten that drum for 6 years on this show, and I'll continue to beat this drum. It's time to get really behind this sport because it's a growth sport. And I think it finally took some pretty impressive eye-opening wins this year in the conference for maybe the general populace to get on board with that. And there's some people contributing to NIL already for basketball that have never really contributed or people that don't believe in NIL. None of us like it. There's also a great clip, Pilk. We may have you pull this for next week. I'll find it over the weekend. I was watching it last night or this morning, and it was Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, talking about the difference between, an NIL, which is name, image, and likeness, and you're able to, take your notoriety from the sport you play in and create a deal of some kind of sponsorship or, get a piece of maybe some jersey sales or, autographs, that kind of thing, versus the collective. It's the collectives that are, assembling this money and then divvying it out as sort of a middleman. So the collectives and the NIL aren't necessarily the same thing if you get right down to brass tacks on it. But I thought Deion's info on that and sermon on that, if you will, was really quite impressive. We've got ECU baseball coming up at the top of the hour. So that is happening today. Memphis is in for a 3-game set, and it will be the back-to-back pitcher of the week in the American, Ethan Norby, the lefty going to the hill for the Pirates today as he's put together 2 straight wins. ECU had their 5-game win streak snapped the other day. This is a Memphis team that's coming in that's starting to get some guys healthy, some day-to-day, everyday players. So they feel like that this will be something for them that will allow them to maybe start to have their offensive production uptick a little bit. They actually lead the American in ERA, does Memphis, and their bullpen's been really good. So it's going to be I think this is going to be an interesting weekend. There's a lot of interesting matchups, intriguing matchups around college baseball this weekend, And in the American as well, there's some fascinating matchups. So we'll discuss all of that coming up on the big program today. Pilk, we've talked basketball. We've previewed baseball. You know what we're going to talk next since we're in March? You know what we're going to talk next.
Oh, yeah, baby. We're going to talk because they're on a win streak. They're on an 8-game win streak, so they're your Patrick Carolina Hurricanes.
It's the time of year where I determine, am I on the bandwagon or am I off?
Yeah. Hey, man, if the way it's been going, you should be on it. This is the time. It's the time to jump on it. It's not a good time for you this week because they're on their West Coast trip. And
right.
so,
yeah,
you're like way going to bed by the time it happens. Of course, they do play the Kings in a couple days at 4 o'clock, but you're calling baseball, so.
Right. I had a friend of mine text me yesterday about something. They texted me at 8:45 last night, and I did not reply till like 5 in the morning because I was out.
So I'm guessing, was your friend texting you about basketball or something that didn't matter?
Yeah, like, da-da-da-da-da, what are you watching, and I think I glanced up and I had the 4 screen going, but I was quickly asleep after that.
It was an interesting first night. There was like a few about to be upsets, and they never really happened.
Yeah. Well, it's intriguing. Whole thing's been interesting so far to me. All right, let's hit a break. Brian LaBlanc. We got Adam Gold. We've got Maniscalco. We have all these and we go to LaBlanc from Canes Country because we love LaBlanc, so we like to talk to him. We'll talk some hockey with Brian LaBlanc. March Madness. Here we go, Pilk. I'm going to play us out.
There you go.
There you have it. All right. Patrick Johnson Show rolls on with LaBlanc coming up.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast, Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina, Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Your roof is a vital part of protecting your home and family from dangerous storms and hurricanes. At Assist Roofing, we install and maintain metal roofing that provides precise protection. Add value to your home while lowering utility costs with a fortified roof to last a lifetime. With 0% financing, grants, and Energy Star Green Roofing tax credit available. Call us to schedule a free consultation so you can weather any storm with confidence.
ready for this?
Oh, I'm very ready. Okay, ready?
You ready? Streaming to the world at 943thegame.com. This is the Patrick Johnson Show. Now, in all his glory, here's the P-Man.
All right, time to welcome in our friend from Canes Country, Brian LaBlanc, talking with us here. We're covering all of these during the show today, so there you go. Brian
You're still
LaBlanc
using that drop, aren't you?
Yes. Sports! Well, you got it for me, so why wouldn't I use it? Yes.
I did. Many years ago.
I did. Well, you know, it's the best ideas are stolen. And that's the way it goes, LeBlanc. How are you, LeBlanc? Great to see you again.
Likewise. How you been?
You know, I'm doing all right. We were in the midst and the throes of the college baseball season around these parts and also basketball. But I wanted to talk hockey with you because it's the time of year, Brian, where I either get on the bandwagon or I get off the bandwagon. And I'm getting on the bandwagon because your and now my Carolina Hurricanes have won 8 in a row.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're well and truly on the bandwagon.
Yeah, I'm on the bandwagon.
Well, the easy way to say it is that they made a couple of trades at the trade deadline to get some guys in and move one very big piece out, and all of a sudden, things seem to be going a lot better for them, and they haven't lost since. So things seem to be trending in the right direction. The locker room seems to be in a better place than it was before the trade deadline, and it seems like all the pieces that they have in place are doing what they want them to do, and things are looking up for them. And I think that they are, if they're not one of the top contenders in the Eastern Conference the way that they have been the past couple of years, they're at least in the conversation, which I think is probably where they wanted to be this year. I think that this year was always going to be a little bit of not a rebuilding year, but this was always going to kind of be a transition year for them. And then they got off to a good start. You know, Washington's kind of run away with the division, which I think was kind of a surprise to everybody. So it's maybe a little bit of an unusual situation for the Hurricanes, who have won, a few division titles in a row at this point. They're probably not going to win one this year, and I think that's probably okay, given where they expected to be this year. But it's a different spot for them to be in. But they're where they're probably maybe a little bit ahead of schedule, given where they thought they were going to be this year, and things seem to be coming together nicely at the time you want them to come together. So, overall, can't really complain about where they are. And, if it's the end of March and the P-Man's on the bandwagon, you can't really complain about it, right?
Right. All right. So the trade for, as I like to call him, Stank, because I'm not sure of his pronunciation of his last name exactly. But they made the trade.
That's exactly how he was. I mean, even
Stankoven.
Even someone
Logan Stankoven. Yeah.
Coven.
As I said, Logan Stankoven. Big fan here. Big fan. Big Caniac.
There you go.
What has he brought? And then with the trade, what was the significance of the piece they traded? And do you feel like that they have got enough in return to at least make a little noise in the postseason?
Well, Stankoven's a guy that came over from Dallas. He's a young player. He's only 22. He's the youngest player on the roster now for the Hurricanes. He's kind of an undersized guy, but he's a guy that I think the Hurricanes, and Eric Tulsky, the general manager, said at the trade deadline that he is a guy that really fits the mold of what the Hurricanes are looking for. And by that, they mean a guy that's going to relentlessly compete. He's got a real high motor. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of Seth Jarvis. And now Jarvis is a guy who's really developed the defensive side of his game under Rod Brindamore and has really added to that a really solid offensive game as well. You kind of saw his breakout at the Four Nations tournament back in February. And but I mean, what we've seen, the rest of the world kind of saw that at the Four Nations. What we've seen all season, where he's, probably behind Sebastian Aho, is probably the most, the most valuable forward the Hurricanes have at this point. But Stankoven he's undersized. He's only 5'8", but Jarvis is only 5'9", 5'10" himself, and he's a very, a very prolific contributor on his own. So I think that the Hurricanes are probably seeing a little bit in him of what they see in Jarvis, and if they can get something along those lines from Stankoven, they'll be very happy with it. Mikko Rantanen, boy, that is going to be a saga that's going to live in Hurricanes lore for a long time. The story here is that they traded away Martin Necas and Jack Drury to Colorado back in January to grab Rantanen, who had apparently hit an impasse with Colorado over a new contract. There was apparently a misunderstanding, depending on who you believe, about whether or not Colorado was willing to go, to meet Rantanen's number on a new contract. Colorado, said, "Do you want to talk to another team? We have an offer from Carolina." Rantanen said, "Sure," apparently not expecting Rantanen to say yes. Then they traded him, and Rantanen was like, whoa, wait a minute, I wasn't expecting this. And so, depending on who you talk to, you're going to get, you talk to 5 different people, you get 5 different answers. But the bottom line is we saw what we saw on the ice for a month, which was Rantanen not playing up to the level of the contract that he expected, which was, $11-12 million a year. And so, word got out that he was not going to sign with Carolina, and that led them to eventually trade him at the deadline because they wanted to get something back for him. And he eventually signed with Dallas for less than the Hurricanes were signing, but that came after he had apparently rejected a deal from Dallas that was along the same lines of what he had rejected from Carolina. So there's a lot going on here. I have a running joke of the Orpik meter. If you remember way back in the day, Brooks Orpik was the player that injured Eric Cole back in 2006 before the Stanley Cup run. Of the level of fan hatred for certain players, and Orpik's always going to be at the top of that list. And I think Rantanen slots in pretty high on that level right now. There's a lot of fan anger at Rantanen for essentially coming here and sandbagging it for 6 months or 6 weeks rather, saying all the right things, but the play on the ice just didn't live up to expectations. And good on the Hurricanes front office for getting what they could for him. And Stankoven, I think, is he's said all the right things, but more importantly, he's shown through his play on the ice that he wants to be here. And clearly the results have been there for the Hurricanes ever since the trade deadline. They've just taken off like a rocket ship and have really made some serious progress in the standings. And then one other thing I want to mention, they got Mark Jankowski for next to nothing. I mean, spare parts, if you get a late draft pick or something, at $259 at the 3:00 deadline on deadline day. And he's been insane. He scored 3 goals the first part of the season and scored 4 goals in his first couple of games with the Hurricanes. No one was expecting this. I mean, and it's not going to continue. He's a depth player, but just kind of goes to show you that when you get the right mix in the locker room, strange things will happen. And the Hurricanes very clearly have the right mix in the locker room now, where for a few weeks they very clearly did with a player who they were hoping was going to sign long term, but very clearly did not want to be here. And that attitude was very obviously, looking back in retrospect, was causing issues with the rest of the team, and was kind of dragging everybody down. And now that they've kind of flung that weight over the over the side of the boat, things are definitely looking up for them. And sometimes those sorts of intangibles really do make a big difference, and I think we've seen that here.
Your Carolina Hurricanes, now mine, and they are on a 7-game heater. They continue their West Coast swing. The great Brian LaBlanc joins us from Canes country here. All right, I got some other hockey questions, but I want to ask you about Freddie Anderson being back, and he looks sort of now like the Frederik Anderson of old.
Yeah, and they've had a good season with him. They've had a good season with Pyotr Kochetkov kind of manning the ship in Anderson's absence. And at this point, you know what you're going to get from Anderson. You know that he's injury prone. You know that he's probably going to miss, a minimum 20 games a season with some sort of malady. It's just, it's the nature of the beast at this point of his career, both because he's getting up there in terms of age, and he's always just kind of been at least in his time with Carolina, he's been a little bit shaky in terms of his reliability. He's been playing, he's been good. It's just that he hasn't been able to be there. He's not going to be a number one goalie in the sense of playing 60 games a year at this point of his career, and that's okay. I don't want to say that as a knock on him in the sense that he's doing something wrong. That's pretty much what they expect at this point, is that he and Kochetkov will be a tandem, a platoon, if you will. But for the Hurricanes to make a deep run in the playoffs, and we saw this last year, they really do need one of their goaltenders to step up. And the way that he's been playing, Anderson is the more likely of the two. Kochetkov has a higher ceiling, but also a lower floor. And he's capable of stealing more games, I think, than Anderson. But when you get to the playoffs and you need that consistent level of play, you might not get the highlight reel saves from Anderson, but you're going to get more competent night-to-night goaltending from Anderson than you will from Kochetkov, who has a tendency, to just make blunders at the worst possible time that you just don't see from Anderson. So Rod Brind'Amour has been, running this rotation back and forth, essentially just going back and forth between games, irrespective of the opponent, where you'll just go back and forth one to the other in successive games. And I think that they're probably going to continue doing that. There's no reason not to. But I think that they probably do have a decent bit of hope pegged to Anderson. Number one, staying healthy, and number two, keeping up this level of play. And as long as they can do that, goaltending is what has sunk them in the playoffs in the past. And if he can keep up this level of play, can they make a run? Yeah. They stack up pretty well against the Capitals, I think, despite the fact that they're trailing them by like 10 points in the standings right now. They still have 2 games left against them. So, the Eastern Conference very much goes through 2 teams, Washington and Florida. They've made moves this year to try to counter Florida. Florida obviously made moves themselves, getting Brad Marchand at the trade deadline. Just makes them even tougher to play against, makes them more annoying to play against. They certainly are the team to beat, defending Stanley Cup champions notwithstanding. But they're the team that you got to go through to get out of the East. And last year the Hurricanes were done in against Florida by substandard goaltending. And so, it's going to come down to, number one, can they score goals? And the past 8 games, they've been able to do that. And number two, can you stop pucks from going into the net? And last year, they weren't able to do that. And this year, on current evidence, maybe they have a little better shot at doing that. But, time will tell. We're about 2.5 weeks out from the playoffs starting. And then, everything kind of changes at that point. And we really just don't know until you get there. But, on what we've seen so far since Anderson came back from being hurt, I think his level of play is probably a little bit higher than it was this time last year.
All right, I got 2 other things for you here. Really quick, I want to make sure that we cover them. Brian LaBlanc, Canes Country, with us. Alex Ovechkin, you've brought up the Caps a couple of times here. 888th goal for the Great 8. It puts him, I think, 6 away from tying Gretzky, 7 away from surpassing him for the all-time goals lead. That at one time looked untouchable. Probably is not going to happen before the end of the regular season. But, I mean, just put into perspective I guess it could, but just put in perspective that achievement.
It's really pretty incredible. And considering the fact that he missed a couple of months of the season earlier this year with an injury, which really hasn't happened for him much in his career, he may have already broken the record if not for that. There is a non-zero chance that he breaks this record against the Hurricanes. They've got a game, I believe it's either the last or the second to last game of the season. The Capitals play the Hurricanes, and can you imagine what the kind of a circus that would be if a game that could very well be a playoff preview on top of everything else going on is the game where Ovechkin either ties or breaks the record. Just imagine what kind of a sideshow that would be. Rod Brind'Amour's head might explode with all the nonsense that would be going on there. It's like, I just want to play a hockey game, guys. There are records in sports that kind of have a cultural cachet, and you think of Lou Gehrig's record, for example, and the fanfare surrounding when Cal Ripken broke that in 1995. And you think of the records that Michael Jordan set, and Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, and Wayne Gretzky's 894 goals is up there with those records. It may not quite have the cachet here, like in the United States, as some of the baseball records. I'm thinking like Cy Young having 511 wins, or the Cal Ripken's consecutive game streak, or something like that. In Canada, it absolutely does. I mean, it is probably the record up north. But even here, I mean, even the United States, Wayne Gretzky is a name that resonates. And I don't think that anybody really ever thought that anyone was going to touch 894 goals. And to be able to do that in this time, when scoring goals is at a premium, I mean, it's gotten a little bit easier over the past maybe 7 to 8 years. But, Ovechkin's rookie year was the year the Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup in 2005, 2006. And so you got to average, it's been 20 years. Just doing back of the envelope math, you've got to average 40, 45 goals a year every year for 20 years to be able to even approach that record. That's just insane. And number one, it's an insane amount of production. And number two, it's an insane amount of consistency. It's really telling how impressive it's been to do it on one team. On top of that, just shows you how impressive Ovechkin has been in this time when when Gretzky was setting these records. He was setting insane numbers of records. He has a season where he's got 215 points. I was actually looking at this last night. That season, he had 163 assists. The next closest player to him had fewer points than Gretzky had assists that season.
Wow.
So, I mean, he was setting records that were just insane at that time. But everybody was scoring that. I mean, goaltender, the best goalie in the league had a goals against average in the threes. Now your best goaltender is like just slightly above 2. So goaltenders are better. Defensemen are better. And here's Ovechkin coming along and still scoring 40 goals a season for the better part of 20 years. It's just insane. And this is going to wind up being a LeBron versus Jordan argument over who the best goal scorer of all time is. And given the circumstances and given the atmosphere around it, I think that Ovechkin probably has a better case because he's doing it against much better competition, especially early in his career. It was pretty pitiful competition, to be honest. The NHL had just expanded. There were a whole bunch of goaltenders that were quad A, for lack of a better term, not very good NHL level goaltenders that Gretzky was scoring against. Not very, not high quality defensemen that he was just slicing through like butter. Ovechkin's been going up against high quality goaltenders, defensemen every night for the better part of 20 years. It has still been potting goal after goal after goal. It's just been remarkable to see, and we've had a front row seat to it. And I don't think that, partly because he's not, frankly, because he's Russian, and there are certain considerations that come along with that, but partly because he's not Canadian and he's playing in Washington versus playing first in Edmonton, then in Los Angeles, and then in New York.
Right.
There's not quite as much surrounding him as there was around Gretzky. Nobody's going to make the argument, I don't think, that Ovechkin is the greatest player of all time, but as far as the best goal scorer in the history of hockey, I think that is down to a conversation of two between Gretzky and Ovechkin, and I think Ovechkin on the merits probably wins that argument. It's really been something incredible to watch.
All right, we got to go, but we're going to get you back on soon to talk about this, and I have some first or Four Nations questions for you, but we'll have to do that another time. Good to have you on, LeBlanc. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the rest of the basketball tournament, and enjoy our Carolina Hurricanes win streak that's going on right now.
Your Carolina Hurricanes, Peter.
Mine.
Yes.
All right, thank you, LeBlanc.
You got it. Talk soon, buddy.
Great Brian LeBlanc. Great to have him on with us from Canes Country. Oh, we're going to Pilk right now, actually. Philip the Ref Pilkington with the 94.3 The Game Sports Update and Pirate Report. What you got, Pilk?
Thank you, P-Man. It's going to be a busy weekend in Pirate Athletics. It all gets started right here on 94.3 The Game at 5:45 when the baseball team opens up their conference series or conference tournament or conference season, I should say, in their first series against Memphis. Tomorrow's game will be at 4, and then it'll be a noon start time on Sunday. Also opening up conference play this weekend will be the lacrosse team. They are going to host South Florida on Saturday at noon. Remember, admission is free all season long inside Johnson Stadium. They're trying to build on a big win over Quinnipiac last weekend when they won 17-9. Softball will also be taking on South Florida, but they're heading down to Tampa. They left yesterday. They will be getting their series today against the Bulls down there as well. That'll do it for your 94.3 The Game Sports Flash Update and Pirate Report. We're going to take our final time out here on the Patrick Johnson Show. Be back to wrap it up right after this.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves burgers. Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in Color and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Pirate fans, 2025 East Carolina football season tickets are on sale now and can be purchased for as little as $115. Head coach Blake Harrell wants you to be a part of his first full season as the Pirate coach as he builds momentum off of the 8-win season and the Military Bowl win over North Carolina State. Call 1-800-DIAL-ECU or go to ECUPirates.com today to get your 2025 season tickets.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Have you noticed he's in his own little happy hour? We're back to the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
This is the Happy Hour program.
Here's the P-Man.
I wanted to ask LaBlanc about the Four Nations pill, but I thought we'd run out of time. We might still be talking. I love LaBlanc, though.
No, he's a great guest. He's not, sometimes you'll get a guest, they're like, you can just tell they're having a day and they answer the question, they don't elaborate. Never have that problem with LeBlanc.
You're never going to get a lack of elaboration with LeBlanc. That's true. I just saw a number. I don't have the exact figure, but it's 16,800 plus after the first day of the tournament had 0 picks right on their bracket, according to ESPN. That's more impressive than the less than 1% that have everything right after day one. Yeah,
that's tough. That was somebody trying to get every game wrong, I feel like. Like, no way you just went out there and picked 2 16 seeds.
No, I think that's just people who probably don't follow it, who like the team colors or the mascots, or are just trying to maybe outthink the whole thing. And okay, if so and so and so and so gets knocked off, I'm going to have a chance to really cash in on this deal. This was on the ESPN brackets, by the way.
Also, I've heard they said there's a lot of casuals, and they're assuming their casuals are just like throwing a bunch of money at UConn, like in the days leading up to the tournament. And it's like, they're casuals because they just heard UConn's won it the last 2 years. Because Vegas is going to build a new, but if Vegas is going to make a new hotel or a new wing to their hotel after that one, if everybody's putting money on UConn ain't winning.
No, and you've got the casuals laying that money down. And then they'll lay down the Rory McIlroy money, and they'll build another wing.
Oh, my goodness, Masters. Yes. That's going to be when he goes out there and, like you said, backdoors his way into a top 5.
He goes out and he has one bad round, and then he'll backdoor his way into the top 10 or top 5, and everybody will say, close but no cigar, when that was not the case.
And when you go low Sunday, but you started Sunday 8 strokes off the lead, that ain't close but no cigar.
Right. Well, I know that. You know that. People that follow this know that, but the casuals, as you say, no clue.
No
clue whatsoever. Ethan Norby going tonight for the Pirates, and Memphis has got back some guys who have been out of the lineup as of late with injury. A couple games back. So I don't know if this is going to make a huge deal for them, but I think Memphis could be kind of interesting. Their pitching's pretty good. At least it has been so far. We'll see. Really slick on the infield, too. Interesting weekend for East Carolina. Going to learn a lot early on about where the Pirate team is right now. They've been a little up and down. Thanks to Brian LaBlanc. Also, thanks to Philip. We will be back on Monday with the Patrick Johnson Show. Also, Talk of the Town is when we'll see you again on the radio side. ESPN Plus for Mike Mullis and me at the top of the hour, and all weekend, 4 and noon on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. Enjoy the tournament, enjoy the baseball, enjoy the weather, and we will catch you on Monday. Have a great and safe weekend.